The wind screamed like a wounded beast. Valaya pressed her thin body closer to the tiny bundle in her arms, her bioluminescent skin dimming as the last of her strength ebbed away. Snow and ash filtered through the cracks in the broken transport hull. The once proud refugee ship, now nothing more than a frozen tomb embedded in the side of a jagged ridge. The heat core had died hours ago. The emergency signal had blinked weakly for a time, then fell silent. Her child, her only child, whimpered, a sound too small for such a vast and merciless world. His frond hair twitched weakly, and the flickering glow along his ribs was almost gone. "Shoo," she whispered in Elarin, her voice cracked and dry. "Velan, just a little longer. Mama's here." She pulled the emergency blanket tighter around him, even though she knew it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough. The warmth of her own body had kept him alive this long, but her heartbeat was slowing, and her fingers were losing sensation. She leaned her head down, placing it gently atop his, and she sang. The lullaby came from her childhood, a melody once sung by her own mother, back when the Elarin homeworld hadn't yet burned under the weight of war. The notes wavered and shimmered, an ancient song meant to call the stars themselves to watch over sleeping children. But tonight, there were no stars, only the white-out fury of a world that did not care. Still she sang, Yanatella, Silenari, Evoth, sleep, little spark, the storm shall pass. She coughed, the sound wet and deep, and her lips trembled with frostbite. The lullaby faltered, but she forced herself to keep going. If this was the end, she would not let him go to sleep alone. Not in silence, not in cold. Far away, unseen and unknown to her, a light blinked in a corner of the human outpost 30 kilometers east. Staff Sergeant Marcus Reeve looked up from his ration pack. The comms panel flickered to life, low and red, a signal. Weak, nearly lost. He leaned forward. Crash site, he muttered. Sector 9, Ridge Zone. That's suicide terrain. The AI assistant, Echo, chimed calmly. Atmospheric conditions are beyond Class 8. Visibility below 1 meter. Advisable response. Delay until storm reduction. Marcus stared at the coordinates. The signal was already gone. Echo, he said quietly, grabbing his gear. What's the average survival time in that zone for unprotected life forms? 4 to 8 hours, depending on species and insulation. He zipped up his suit and locked his visor. How long ago was the beacon activated? 6 hours, 12 minutes. He didn't answer. He was already moving. Outside the outpost, the storm waited. The airlock hissed open. Snow blasted in sideways like knives. Marcus stepped forward and disappeared into it. Back in the wreck, Valaya's voice had dwindled to a hum. Her lips no longer moved. She had no strength left. Her arms were locked around Velan, muscles frozen tight. Her eyes fluttered. She had always been told that Elarin mothers died beautifully, that when their final light faded, their bodies gave one last burst of glow. That was a myth. There was no beauty here, only grief, only cold. She leaned down one last time, pressing her face to the top of Velan's tiny head. I'm sorry, she whispered. Her glow faded. Outside, the storm howled louder. But somewhere, pushing forward through the white chaos, a lone figure trudged against the wind. A dim blue beacon blinked on his visor map. Marcus Reeve lowered his head and kept walking. There was still time. Maybe, just maybe, one last lullaby for her dying baby. Then the human stepped through the blizzard. Marcus Reeve moved through the white void like a ghost, the storm wrapping around him like claws. The wind screamed so loud it flattened thought, howled so hard it made memory brittle. His boots crunched over ice, knees locking stiff against sub-zero gusts that threatened to knock him sideways. His visor display blinked warnings in red, body temp dropping, wind gusts, 140 kilometers per hour, visibility, minimal. None of it mattered. He'd marched in worse. What did matter was the faint locator signal that had briefly flashed on his system before vanishing. 30 kilometers of nothing but ice, broken cliffs, and a storm that wanted him dead. But somewhere out there, someone had lit a spark, and he wasn't going to let it die. His exosuit groaned as he leaned into the wind. Each step burned. Muscle screamed. But Marcus didn't stop. He couldn't. 10 years ago, he'd failed. Titan Station. Evacuation failure. The fire suppression systems overloaded during the reactor leak. His daughter, Amelia, had been trapped behind a sealed bulkhead. She was 6. She had screamed his name until the smoke took her voice. The rescue team arrived 5 minutes too late. After that, Marcus stopped saying too late. He stopped waiting for orders, stopped trusting timetables. When people were dying, hesitation was murder. And now, there was another child out there. Different species, different world. Didn't matter. Still a baby. Still worth saving. He reached the halfway mark and checked his signal again. Nothing. Just static and ice. The snow was so dense now that his helmet lights bounced back in a wall of white. A lesser man would have turned back. He pushed on. Then something strange. In the wind, beneath the shriek and roar, he heard something musical. A hum? He paused. No, his mind had to be playing tricks. Cole did that. The mind filled in gaps with familiar comforts, whispers, laughter, memories. But still, he turned his head slowly, scanning the blizzard. A shape emerged in the distance. Jagged, metallic, crashed hull. His heart kicked. The wreck. Valia's body was frozen in place. Her arms had stiffened around her child like a mother carved in ice. Frost covered her face, but her expression, peaceful, determined, pierced Marcus like a spear. She had died singing. He dropped to his knees beside her, brushing away layers of snow. Damn, he whispered. You stayed with him. He activated the scanner on his wrist and hovered it over the baby-sized bundle in her arms. A flicker, a heartbeat, faint, weak, alive. Hold on, little guy, he muttered, voice muffled in his helmet. I've got you. With practiced hands, he unwrapped the makeshift cocoon and slipped the child into his thermal life pack, close to his chest. The infant was barely moving, breath shallow and skin a pale blue hue, lined with glowing threads. Alien, fragile, but alive. Valia's frozen hand brushed his arm as he stood. He looked down at her. I'll bring him home, he promised. You did your part. Then he turned into the wind. The return was worse. The storm had grown teeth. Blasts of snow slammed into him with punishing rhythm, forcing him to take slow, deliberate steps. Each time he slipped, he shielded the pack cradled against his body, more afraid for the baby than for his own bones. His suit heater flickered. Power drain. He knew the risks. If the suit failed, he'd freeze before he took 20 steps. But he cranked the heat in the thermal pod, diverting power away from himself. The baby needed it more. His fingers went numb. Ice crept down the inside of his collar. He needed to stop. Rest. Just for a second. No. He blinked hard. Pushed forward. Come on, Marcus, he growled to himself. 1 foot. Then the next. Inside the thermal pod, the child stirred. A faint, breathy whimper. Alive. And then, without thinking, Marcus began to hum. Not the lullaby from earlier. Something old from Earth. A human lullaby. Broken notes carried on a cracking voice. Hush now, don't you cry. He didn't remember the rest. Didn't matter. The baby shifted, responded. His glow pulsed faintly. Marcus kept walking, kept humming. A man, a blizzard, and a promise. The world narrowed to the crunch of boots and the hiss of wind against Marcus's helmet. The storm wasn't letting up. Snow lashed his body like shards of glass, and his suit's temperature gauge dipped into red. Still, he held the infant close. The alien child, Velan, he decided silently, was barely breathing. His translucent skin had darkened to a faint violet, glowing veins pulsing dimly like embers in fading ash. The warmth of the life pod wasn't enough. The wind clawed at them both, greedy for one more death. Marcus adjusted his grip, tucking the baby tighter under his chest armor. His own body warmth, dangerously low now, fed into the pod. He couldn't feel his fingers anymore. Temp warning. Core temp below safe range. Seek shelter immediately. He laughed bitterly. Yeah? Got any shelter out here amidst? Echo. His suit didn't answer. No signal. No guidance. Just the horizonless storm and the frozen quiet inside his mind. He kept walking. Step after punishing step. Hours blurred. Time lost meaning. He slipped on ice. His knee hit hard against a rock buried in snow. Alarms blared inside his helmet. Something torn, joint actuator offline. Damn it. He forced himself to his feet, limbs trembling. He couldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. He opened the pack briefly. The baby stirred, eyelids fluttering. His frond-like hair twitched. Marcus whispered, "Hey, you're still with me, huh?" He pressed 2 fingers gently to Velan's small chest. The beat was there, uneven but present. A rhythm too stubborn to quit. Just like his mother. "Your mom was a hell of a fighter," Marcus said softly. "She gave everything for you." She held the storm off with her bare hands. I watched her. A memory surfaced. Amelia, his daughter, bundled in a blanket on Titan Station, grinning as he hummed a lullaby before his security shift. She liked the sound of his voice, even if it was off-key. He glanced down at Velan. "You want a song?" He didn't know why he asked. Maybe to fill the silence. Maybe to stay sane. So he sang. It was rough, hoarse, more breath than melody. A simple human lullaby passed through the haze of frost. Golden slumbers kiss your eyes. Smiles await you when you rise. The wind didn't drown it out. Somehow, the sound seemed to carry even in the storm's roar, like the tune cut through the blizzard itself. The child shifted in the pod. Not much, but enough. His glowing veins brightened. Marcus stared in shock. "That worked," he sang again. "Sleep, little darling, do not cry, and I will sing a lullaby." The pod's internal readings flickered. Temperature stabilizing. Respiration improved. Marcus couldn't believe it. He glanced at the bioreader again. Then it hit him. The lullaby. Valia's song. Her voice had likely done more than comfort. Elarin biology might respond neurologically to harmonic frequencies. It wasn't just sentiment. It was survival. She'd been singing to keep her baby alive. And now, so was he. Something shifted in Marcus's chest. He wasn't just a soldier marching through hell anymore. He was part of a lullaby passed from one world to another, and he had to finish the verse. He pressed forward, each footfall now driven not by protocol, but purpose. More singing, more humming, more voice against the howl. The outpost was still over the next ridge, but he knew the land. One more hill, and he'd see it, if his eyes didn't freeze first. He collapsed once, couldn't get up right away. For a full minute, he lay in the snow, body convulsing with cold. The wind kicked up snowdrift over his back like a burial blanket. The pod gave a soft chime. Velan whimpered. That sound was sharper than any alarm. Marcus roared into the storm and pushed up with everything left. Fire shot through his shoulder. His vision blurred, but he stood, and he walked. Then, finally, a blinking red light pierced the white haze. The outpost beacon. He staggered toward it, barely upright, barely alive. The auto-sensors recognized his IFF tag and triggered the gates. Warm floodlights cut into the snowstorm as the doors hissed open. Marcus stumbled inside, collapsed just as medtechs rushed to meet him. He held the pod tight, even as he passed out, whispering one final word. Alive. Then everything went dark. Warmth returned in waves of light and sound. Marcus Reeve opened his eyes to the soft hum of medical monitors and the sterile glow of recovery lamps. His body ached, wrapped in thermal gel patches and 4 lines, his chest still tight with frostbite damage, but he was alive. His first thought wasn't of pain. It was of the child. Velan, he rasped. A medical bot turned toward him. Vital signs stabilizing. Human subject conscious. Alerting command. He pulled off his oxygen mask. The baby. Where is he? Before the machine could answer, the door slid open, and Lieutenant Sanat Devon, his commanding officer, stepped in. Snow still dusted her coat's shoulders. Her eyes were hard, but they softened at the sight of him conscious. He's alive, she said quietly. Just barely. We've got him in xenopediatrics. Don't know how you pulled it off, Marcus. That storm nearly killed both of you. He let his head fall back on the pillow, eyes stinging. She did most of the work. His mother, Valia. Sanaa's expression shifted. There was a body. We recovered her. Frozen around the wreckage. We'll arrange repatriation with the Elarin colony, if any of them made it off-world. Marcus closed his eyes, just for a moment. She sang to him, he whispered, even as she died. That lullaby wasn't just love. It was biology, medicine. It kept him alive. Sanaa nodded. We've got linguists and xenobiologists dissecting it already. You recorded fragments in your helmet feed. The melody might be the key to stabilizing premature Elarin infants. Marcus almost smiled. She saved him. I just finished the song. Later that day, wrapped in a heat cloak and walking stiffly, Marcus stood in the observation chamber overlooking the med bay. The Elarin infant lay in a sealed warming pod. His tiny chest rose and fell in steady rhythm now, skin glowing softly with restored energy. He was sleeping, peaceful, alive. The lullaby played on a loop beside him, a fusion of Elia's voice and Marcus's rough humming, woven together by AI harmonics. Marcus watched as the glow along the child's fronds pulsed with each note. A connection, a memory, a bond. He pressed a hand to the glass. You made it, he whispered. Your mama got you through. He didn't expect anyone to hear, but someone did. Behind him, Sanaa spoke. So what now? He didn't turn around. I'm not leaving him. He'll be transferred to the Elarin embassy in 2 weeks. Then I've got 2 weeks. She studied him for a long moment. You're not doing this out of guilt, are you? Marcus shook his head. Not guilt. Duty. To who? To a promise. The next days passed in slow rhythm. Marcus recovered, but he spent every hour possible beside Velan. He learned the baby's responses, which chords calmed him, which humming patterns triggered glowing pulses in his skin. The child began to recognize his presence, tiny limbs shifting when Marcus entered the room, glowing lines brightening in response to his voice. A bond formed, fragile but real. On the 7th day, Marcus sat beside the pod, humming softly, when Velan reached a small hand toward the glass and pressed it there. Marcus mirrored it. You're going to have a life, he said softly. You'll grow up. You'll run. You'll sing. He paused. And you'll know what she did for you. 2 weeks later, as the transport shuttle prepared for departure to the Elarin consulate, Marcus stood at the airlock, bundled against the still icy wind. Sanaa handed him a small data chip. What's this? He asked. Your field report, she said. The one you never wrote. Your audio logs, suit feeds, lullaby harmonics, and your final words when you passed out. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Alive? She nodded. One word. But the whole galaxy's listening now. He watched as Velan was gently carried aboard, now monitored and cared for by Elarin and human pediatric teams alike. His pod played the lullaby still, Marcus's voice and Valia's side by side. A lullaby that crossed worlds, species, life and death. As the shuttle lifted off into the blizzard-choked sky, Marcus remained there, watching until it vanished from view. He whispered, one last time, into the wind. Sleep well, little star. And the storm, at last, was silent.